Hello. This was a bit of an impromptu sewing project just because I'm trying to get through my backlog of ideas and pieces. So I bought probably 2 yards if I had to guess. I don't actually remember, of this really thin knit bright pink material. I wanted to make a cropped sweater. I have never made a sweater for myself, and so I drew up a kind of bell sleeve cropped but has a collar design here, and that's what I'm gonna do. It should just be kind of a nice stretch, go over the top, have a bit of flare, but a collar, but it will definitely be lightweight, and I'm actually lining it with its own material, aka double layering it, so that it's just not completely see-through. I already filmed me cutting out all of the parts, and so this so far should be pretty simple. It just has, but I will be doing everything twice as it is being lined with its own material. So I'm basically just making 2 and then combining them into 1, if that makes sense. So for everything I say, I'm doing it twice, except for like the collar, that's just 1 piece. I have a front piece and a back piece that will be getting sewn at the shoulders and the side here. I'm a little worried the armhole is like dramatically large, but I think it might be interesting. So that will be happening, so that this is just 1 piece, and then like I said, I'm going to do it to my other one to line it. I have my sleeves cut, so they're pretty long. I don't think they're going to be like dramatically long. I do have rather long arms, so they will be like bellowy. Let's sew the front and backs together, both of them, and then we will cut to putting on the sleeves. Sound good? Hopefully that sounds good. Okay, so we have 2 pieces of this. We have 4 of these. Like I said, this one I had to sew right sides together, but all my other sleeves are whole pieces, so completely disregard that. I'm going to make this is going to be my lining, the one that this ends up on. So this process is going to be copied amongst the 4 sleeves, so might as well only do this once. So we're looking at an armhole here, and you're going to want to line up the top of your shoulder with the top of this piece. And what we are going to do is sew these right sides together. I'm keeping both of my pieces flipped inside out so you can see where you stitch. I would truly recommend top of the shoulder, bottom, like where your armpit is, and then going back and doing the other way, so that then we can close up the sleeve. I always close up the sleeve last. I feel like, I don't know. I've seen people do it both ways. Okay, so I actually think that worked really well, and I just did a really quick try on, and so far the seams are laying super nicely, which I'm really excited about. So I'm actually just gonna go ahead and do the opening of the sleeve. So, and then I'm gonna do that 3 more times, so that the lining and the outside will be done. And then we are just having to connect the pieces and pop on the collar. I don't think this is that hard. Okay, we made some changes, which I've marked on my pattern, but I'll show you before I go cutting off excess. Oh. Okay, so this is the front. We're still inside out. We have both pieces sewn. I think I mentioned, I'm not confident, I made my shoulder a little too wide, so I took that in about 2 inches, because the way I had them together, I just put my seam in 2 inches. So it's about 2 inches from the shoulder I took in, and then, but I kept the bottom the same, so it's still going to be a very open sided sleeve, but at least the shoulder fits a little bit better in my opinion. I took in the waist just about 1.5 inches or so, if even, it might just be 1 inch. I did a diagonal just because I thought it would look nicer to have a bit of a cut. I know it won't be super obvious, but instead of just looking like a giant rectangle, it would take that in just a little bit. So I did that on each side from the underarm, or right under the sleeve, to the bottom as it currently sits. So I will be trimming off that and these extra sleeve, and then we're going to work on pinning the inside and outside together, and then we are almost done. This is not going to be the easiest to see, and I'm sort of playing around with how I want to do this. So I have both, everything's attached at the moment. All we have to do is somehow attach these, so the outside and the inside. I have them tucked inside of each other. The lining is technically inside out because I want the nice side to be like against the skin. So I want the seams of each part to be towards each other. So it's now wrong sides together. I'm not going to go around everything. I'm thinking I'm just going to start with doing some small seams, so like the shoulders and the sides, and I believe what I'm going to do is take this little bit of the shoulder seam, so like where you previously stitched them together, and I'm going to match these up on both the inside and outside piece and stitch right over top of that, connecting the two. Okay, so I remember when I said the sleeve was the hardest part. I think I've changed my mind, and I would say putting the lining in could possibly be a giant pain in the butt. So I did exactly what I said. I put the shoulders together, the side seams together, and I did find a way to do the arm seam as well, so now this is like, these really don't shift from each other too much. So it's kind of just messing around with things and finding a way to get all the seams next to each other so you can actually sew them. So yeah, you also could elect to just not line the sleeves if that would make your life easier, which it probably would. I just really wanted this to be a bit thicker than the one layer. So now I have to decide how I want to finish all the edges. That's literally all we have left. I cut a collar somewhere, which I'm now realizing I probably lost. So I cut a big rectangle, and it's going to sit like this, with the folded edge being around my neck. I'm gonna sew this tube quick, flip it inside out, pin it to here, make sure to have 2 layers on the front and the back so that you're properly dividing them, and sew this to that. It might require a little bit of bunching in this, which is why we're gonna pin it first and be like, oh, we have to put some little things in here. This lighting makes me look so pale in it. Not that I'm not. I'm incredibly pale, but this lighting really highlights that because it's like a gloomy day. So it's really accentuating. Pale. Pale. So this is the completed sweater. I had to recut a new collar, and it had to be more of a loose fit just because the more I sewed, like this doesn't really have any, this has no stretch to it actually, and I don't have thread with elastic. I don't have an elastic thread. So I kind of made way too small of a neck. So I actually just measured the width of my neckline, which I should have just done from the beginning because this is not a fabric I ever would have been able to stretch over my head. And I gave myself a good bit of extra width beyond that by a good bit, maybe like 2 to 3 inches. Should have done more arguably, but I think it works. I did have to bunch it in just a few areas to make it fit, and it kind of now does this, which I don't mind. I actually like, I think it's cute. I chose to leave the edges raw. I just trimmed them to be the same length, as I see like a little nick in it, but I think this fabric just lends itself, it doesn't really fray. I think it's really fun. I could have made it, it's pretty cropped, like if I raise my hands, immediately showing the bra. So, but honestly, I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. I just know there are people who don't love that. If I hadn't messed up the collar yesterday, I genuinely think this could have been like a 2.5 hour project. It was really simple. Honestly, putting in the lining was probably the hardest part. And even that, like as soon as you did one, you were like, oh, okay, this is easy. I generally do sew with stretch material, so this was a little out there for me, but I made it oversized, so it didn't really matter. Thank you again. I'm sorry there's a shadow right over my face, but if I stand back here, my stomach just glows, so we're gonna stand up here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!